I never imagined the day would come when I'd be sitting across from my own husband in a courtroom, watching him angrily sign away everything we built together. Our home, our cars, the life we carefully crafted over 10 years, while I gripped the armrest of my chair so hard my knuckles whitened. And yet there I was, Sandra Miller, 38, former corporate project manager turned single mother, facing off against the man I loved more than life itself, all because he'd decided that my best friend Julie, his assistant of 2 years, had a nicer smile than I did. It began innocently enough, well, as innocently as affairs do, with late-night texts, coffee runs, and laughter shared behind closed office doors. I didn't see the signs. I was busy juggling our son's middle school math tutor, my new role on the company's executive committee, and planning our 10th anniversary trip to Santorini. Greg was under pressure for that promotion he'd been chasing, the one that carried a 6-figure bonus and a corner office. He told me the late nights were for work. I believed him because I wanted to, but then in April I noticed the first crack and unfamiliar perfume on his tie, a stray lipstick mark on his collar. When I asked, he blamed it on spilled coffee. Then the second crack appeared, his email signature changed, omitting my name from special thanks on a project we'd both led. Suddenly I was Miss Miller and he was Greg Reynolds, senior vice president, the big promotion I'd orchestrated for us both. I confronted him at home one Tuesday night. What's going on? His answer, nothing you need to worry about. By May, the affair had flowered. On my birthday, he insisted on dinner at the new rooftop restaurant downtown, then excused himself to make a call, only to return red-cheeked and distant. I found the first email that weekend, an exchange between G. Reynolds and G. Stevens, sexting in between code snippets and budget spreadsheets. My hands shook as I scrolled through each message. I thought about our son's face, our mortgage payments, the trust fund we hadn't even discussed yet. The next morning, I served him divorce papers over our pancakes. He stared at me in shock, fork halfway to his mouth. "Sandra, what are you doing?" he whispered. I met his eyes and said, "I'm leaving." My voice was firm, though my heart stuttered. "You've betrayed me. I won't let you take everything, including our dignity." He called me hysterical. I told him I'd arranged the lawyers. He begged, pleaded. I didn't listen. My first victory came 2 days later when I secured temporary exclusive occupancy of our house. The judge agreed that my son needed stability, that his home should remain our home. Greg moved into his mother's spare bedroom. Over the next month, we negotiated relentlessly. He tried to lowball me, offering the 2018 Range Rover and a lump sum payment far below half our net worth. I refused. I'd always managed our finances. I knew our assets. Our house in Westchester, valued at $1. $4 million, 2 cars paying off, joint brokerage account, retirement funds. I held my ground. Meanwhile, I hatched a plan for that promotion he'd coveted. When Greg was away at business dinners with Julie, I dusted off his company's internal career development portal, login info courtesy of years of shared passwords, and read through the job description for senior vice president. I polished my LinkedIn, updated my resume, and drafted a bullet point manifesto, 10 years of strategic leadership, driving 25% year-over-year growth. By June, I'd secured a meeting with his former mentor, who was now executive VP. He listened, impressed. "Sandra, I've seen your work. Your leadership on the Meridian account was spectacular. If you're interested, I'd like to discuss you stepping into Greg's role." Silence. My pulse spiked. "I'm in." Back in mediation, I calmly told Greg's lawyer, "I accept the house, the Range Rover, the Mercedes, and I will retain my current role, and I will step into Greg's vacated seat as senior VP, effective July." Greg paled. His lawyer sputtered. "That's unconventional." I answered, "Life's too short to accept half measures." He stood up, raked a hand through his hair. I saw the moment his ambitions shattered. I saw the man who once wooed me with promises of a corner office realize that his betrayal would cost him everything he thought was owed. And when the judge signed the final decree in early July, I walked out of the courtroom, the unburdened wife I'd always aspired to be, homeowner, car owner, and freshly minted senior VP of Reynolds Technologies. Greg and Julie, they were now stepping into the awkward role of ex-spouses, forced to find their own careers and a new bachelor pad. 2 weeks later, at my promotion party in the company's gleaming atrium, I stood at the podium in my new power suit, Day Saints navy wool if you must know, and looked out at the crowd of colleagues who once laughed at my dream job. They cheered as I accepted the plaque for 2019 Rising Leader of the Year, his own name nowhere to be found. When the champagne popped, I raised my glass to our CEO and said, "This one's dedicated to everyone who ever told me I couldn't, especially those who thought they'd get to keep everything." Laughter and applause thundered like a waterfall. And if you think that's where the story ends, buckle up. I'm only halfway to the finish line. In part 2, coming soon, you'll see how I turned my bonus into a venture fund, how I mentored other women stuck in toxic marriages, and how Greg's next affair ended, not with a sizzle, but with a fizzle on his soon-to-be ex's voicemail, as she stepped down from her new executive liaison post. Because life is deliciously ironic when you refuse to play small, and yes, you can have it all, the house, the cars, and the promotion you deserve. When the confetti finally settled over the company atrium and my colleagues' applause faded into the hum of the weekend, I thought I'd reached the pinnacle of my career and my personal comeback. But as I slipped on my coat in the empty elevator, I felt that familiar pulse in my veins, the need to build something that would outlast any corner office or golden statue. 2 days later, I walked into my lawyer Miles's office, fresh from a long weekend spent interviewing financial advisors. "I'm ready," I told him, voice firm. "I want to turn my year-end bonus into seed capital, an angel fund to back women entrepreneurs. Let's call it the Second Act Fund." He raised an eyebrow over his glasses. "An admirable idea. You've got around $250,000 in discretionary and a network no one else has. I can draft an LLC and partnership agreement. You'll need a board, an investment thesis, KYC protocols." I nodded, leaning forward. "Exactly. I want to empower women who've been sidelined, divorcees, career changers, first-time founders, those who've been told they can't." Miles smiled wryly. "Sounds like you." He typed away. "Give me 2 days." By Thanksgiving, I'd assembled our founding board: Tara, my best friend and former marketing whiz; Jasmine, a venture attorney I'd met at a startup conference; Ravi, my banking contact, who'd once teased me about retiring; and Nadine, a single mom who'd built a successful fitness app. Over appetizers at El Toro Cantina, where we once plotted my resignation over burritos, we sketched out our plan: focus pre-seed checks, $25K, $50K, in women-led startups, with genuine social impact. Structure: a 5-member board, rotating seats, annual investor meet, up in spring. Metrics: beyond ROI, measure mentorship hours, employee diversity, community engagement. "We're not just writing checks," I said, tapping my pen on the napkin. "We're offering office space in my old conference room, no rent for 6 months, connections to corporate partners, weekly strategy sessions. We'll incubate them." Tara's eyes sparkled. "This is brilliant and overdue." She raised her glass. "To the Second Act Fund, where you can't becomes watch me." We clinked and I felt a fierce pride. The next 3 months blurred in due diligence calls, legal filings and lunch meetings with coffee-fueled entrepreneurs. We backed 6 startups in our inaugural cohort: a biodegradable packaging company, a remote learning platform for underserved teens, a socially conscious coffee brand, an AI tool to help survivors of domestic abuse find resources, a women's health telemedicine clinic, and a microfinancing cooperative for immigrant artisans. Each marked their accepted email with a line that stopped me cold: "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." One afternoon, I held office hours in that converted conference room, now decked with fresh flowers and beanbag chairs. A young woman named Rosa, founder of a menstrual care startup, sat across from me, tears in her eyes. "My co-founder just ghosted me," she said, voice trembling. "He thought this was a joke project." I reached across the table. "It's not a joke, it's your passion. Let's map out Plan B, new hire, revised roadmap, grant applications. You're not alone." She pulled out a shaky grin. "Thank you, Sarah. You have no idea how much this means." That evening, I listed Rosa in my gratitude journal. One more reason my ex's betrayal had unlocked a doorway to these moments of purpose. Meanwhile, word of the Second Act Fund rippled back to my former company. One morning, as I packed files in my home office, my phone buzzed with a LinkedIn in-mail from Marlene, the very woman who'd sneered at my wildlife pitch years ago. Marlene Reynolds, Director of Content Strategy, Arcadia Lifestyle Network. "Sarah, congratulations on your promotion and what you're doing with the Second Act Fund. I'd love to talk about a potential content partnership, a docu-series following your entrepreneurs. Let me know when you're free." My smile was slow, triumphant. I typed back, "Let's do lunch next week. My treat." I realized I'd come full circle, from dismissed dreamer to indispensable innovator. If you think that was my final word to Greg, think again. One crisp December afternoon, I received a nondescript envelope with no return address. Inside was a photocopy of a performance review from Reynolds Technologies, addressed to Greg, performance improvement plan subject, insubordination, conflict of interest, next review in 30 days, or he'd tried to secure a fractional share on one of my portfolio companies, an off-the-books consultancy for his mistress, aka his former secretary, only to be caught by internal audit. His golden parachute had shrunk to severance, and his exit interview cited breach of trust. I reflected on the irony. The man who left me for power had lost every scrap of it. That holiday season, I hosted a celebratory mixer at my house. The front hall was decked with wreaths, the kitchen table groaned under homemade appetizers, and the second act fund's logos glowed on the projector screen. I welcomed my board, portfolio founders, neighbors, even my mother, who'd flown in with her alpaca wool sweaters. At one point, I raised a glass of champagne. To new beginnings I began, voice warm, to women who dare to dream, who refuse to be defined by any single act, and to the surprising power of a broken heart. The room erupted in applause. I glanced around, Jasmine fist pumping, Ravi texting with a grin, Tara hugging Nadine. We'd built this together. And for a moment I remembered the laughter in that boardroom years ago. The laughter that tried to bury my dream. Now that very dream had fueled a movement. A week later, I visited Greg's former corner office, with permission of course, to rescue a few personal items he'd left behind. My Cornell pennant, old family photos, the silver picture frame from our wedding. I paused at the conference room where we once pitched joint strategies. I touched the table where we'd toasted our then future. The board chairs, empty now, glistened in the fluorescent light. I whispered, thank you, not for him, but for what he'd taught me, that betrayal can be a beginning. I gathered my things and headed to the elevator. As the doors closed, my phone buzzed with an alert. Second Act Fund, Series A round, to open Q2 2025. I let out a laugh and stepped into my new life, free, empowered, unstoppable. Months later, I stood on the dais at Civic Hall, the keynote speaker for the Women in Innovation Summit. The auditorium was packed. Venture capitalists, founders, journalists. I adjusted the microphone, recalling that first laugh in the Carlyle Media Group boardroom, the one that nearly silenced me forever. I opened my talk. I once lost everything, my marriage, my trust, and my corner office, because I dared to chase a dream they called unrealistic. But that dream led me to build a fund that's invested $500,000 in over 20 women-led startups, created jobs, and changed lives. Today, I'm here to tell you that your wildest ideas, no matter how out of place they seem, are exactly what the world needs. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. I felt tears pool in my eyes as the applause enveloped me. And in that moment, I understood the greatest revenge on anyone who ever doubted you is not to look back, but to keep moving forward, building, growing, and leading the world into its next great chapter. Because sometimes the best way to have it all is to have the courage to give some of it away.